and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. The death of Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez is one which has been called a game changer. Here to discuss this further is Elias Ashkar from the UBIS University. Elias, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. It's good to see you again.
Now, before we can consider a future without President Hugo Chavez, we need to consider a past with him in it. What legacy has he left?
Well, as we all know, Hugo Chavez was a very charismatic leader, very flamboyant, very talkative, and also very controversial. So when we talk about his legacy, we have to see who are we asking. If you talk to the people who voted for him, for them he is a champion of the poor. He is actually a quasi-religious figure, like the Jesus Christ of the poor, and he did a lot for the poor. If you talk to the people who did not vote for him, they think he's the lousiest president in the history of Venezuela. Abuse of power, abuse of the country resources, and so on. If we talk to the people outside world, how do they see him, the analysts in the international community? What they will tell you, on the good side, he did a lot of things to lift people from poverty. He cut poverty in half. He invested in education, more than doubled the enrollment in universities and schools. On the healthcare front, even the infant mortality was significantly reduced. But on the other hand, he abused a lot of the country's wealth with billions of dollars wasted, whether in internal unproductive programs or in the international arena.
With that in mind then, what state, both politically and economically, do we find Venezuela in at present?
Well, the short answer is really it's a mess, politically and economically. Because when you look at, for example, what's been happening lately, inflation is running at about anywhere 25 to 30% a year. Growth has slowed down significantly from about 5.6% in 2012, now looking at 1.7, the forecast for 2013. In the same time, the infrastructure is in a terrible mess. The oil production has decreased by a million barrels a day since he took over. It used to be about 3.4 million barrels a day. Now it's about 2.4, and looking at 2.3 million in 2013. Spent money in the wrong place, did not invest in oil production and refineries, so on, subsidized things that are not productive, was not the best way to use the country's wealth resources. So what happened at the end of the day, you're looking now at high inflation, low growth, shortages of goods, even basic goods, sugar, chicken, and whatever, and a big increase in crime rate. Actually, in Caracas alone, you have more policemen killed in 1 year than in the entire USA. That gives you an idea.
Hugo Chavez's death is one which has been described as a game changer, and particularly with elections coming up on April the 14th, could also imply a reorganization in political order. What do you see happening in these upcoming elections? Well,
campaigning already started since last Tuesday, and it looks like it's going to be very, very nasty. The two candidates are Nicolas Maduro, who is the current transitional president, 50 years old, originally bus driver, no real credentials, riding on a high wave of emotions and sympathy for Chavez. And he was smart by calling the election very, very quickly, so to benefit from this. On the other hand, you have Enrique Capriles, sharp, younger, he's 40 years old, Maduro is 50, and he's a lawyer, educated, energetic, etc. But he is unfortunate that he has to run right after Chavez's death. He's at a disadvantage because with this outpouring of emotions and sympathy, it looks like Maduro is the lucky candidate, even though, and most probably he will win the presidential election, but I would say he's an unlucky president if he wins because he has a mess on his hand.
You still wouldn't want to be the president to follow Chavez, admittedly. Now, despite possessing arguably the world's largest proven oil reserves, the Venezuelan economy has stagnated for the last 14 years approximately. What sort of outlook does the nation hold now as from an investor's outlook?
It depends also what kind of investor you are, high risk, medium risk, or low risk. But as a whole, Venezuela was really not open for business. As you know, Chavez alienated the business community and the investors. He actually nationalized over 1,000 companies ranging from energy to telecommunication to everything else, nationalized over 1 million hectares of land and all of this. So basically the investors put Venezuela in a freezer. My recommendation now for investors is Venezuela has a huge potential. It needs to be rebuilt from the energy sector to oil production, refineries, infrastructure, and you name it. It's a big, big project, Venezuela. The question is, would you jump now? I would say my advice to investors, take it from the freezer, put it on the burner, not the back and not the front, in the middle. Watch, monitor very closely, but definitely it should be on any investor's radar screen, because there's a lot of potential. The Chavez era is over. What he did is not sustainable. So Venezuela would have to open up to the international community, to the investors.
Elias, thank you very much. Definitely a turning point at present for the Venezuelan economy.
Natalie, thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure to see you on your program. Thank you.
We'll be back on Monday with Eric Burtness discussing platinum. For now, though, goodbye and have a great weekend.